Welcome back to Doctor Who The Cancelled Chronicles, and today we will be going back to The Lady, the Doctor Who spinoff. Let's have some fun in time and space, ladies and gents. Series 3 of The Lady appeared to the audience at home to be much of the same as the previous in terms of casting, but behind the scenes a large change was occurring. Anjali Mohindra, Lucian Laviscount, and Naoko Mori all indicated that they desired to leave the series by the end of this current series. So work began to write the characters out. For The Lady, this was easy. She is a time lady and can regenerate. Naoko Mori can just be replaced with a new actor. But for Jem and Gemma, this required an entire goodbye to be written for them. Showrunner John Dorney decided that neither character should be killed off, but should not depart together, allowing character development to let the two characters depart when it seemed right. However, during the writing of the series, he decided that one of the siblings would be killed off to allow for a dramatic beat. As well as this, both Series 3 and 4 would be reduced down to 8 episodes instead of 10, and allow the series to be released earlier in the year than before. The first episode is The Universe Adjacent to N, written by Ronald D. Moore. The episode begins with the TARDIS trio mid-adventure being under attack from a space fleet attacking the planet Desmonda in the year 78 million. When the group of people they are attempting to save are killed, Gemma, who has had enough of all the death and terror, requests to go home. The lady is surprised, somewhat hurt, but agrees nonetheless. As she turns to set the coordinates, the TARDIS lurches and the group are knocked unconscious as the TARDIS slips through a time track. When they come to, they discover that they are in exospace, more commonly known as E-space, where the Doctor departed from his former companion Romana in this specific instance. They're trapped in a 50-story building. Or was it 45 stories? Or 40? Exploring, they discover a concerning fact. E-space is shrinking, hence the changing floors of the building, which is literally being crushed down around them, and if they don't find a way out, they too will be destroyed if they're trapped in E-space. At the time, the pocket of the universe they are finally in shrinks completely. The episode ends with the TARDIS trio unable to know where they're going due to no E-space image modulator on the TARDIS, barely escaping from the collapsing building they're trapped inside. The second episode is Last Roll of the Dice, written by Ronald D. Moore. Episode 2 begins where Episode 1 finished, with the TARDIS trio having barely escaped with their lives. The TARDIS materializes in a jungle which, like the building of the previous episode, is shrinking rapidly. A group of jungle natives need their help to survive, to cancel out the atrophy, to escape from the inevitable fate of death coming for them. Investigating with her companions, the lady eventually discovers a way to stop the atrophy of E-space and keep both this universe and the main universe from collapsing in on one another. A living person from N-space must remain in E-space and be absorbed to allow the two universes to become equal and stabilize. This, to the TARDIS trio, is abhorrent. The trio decide that they cannot help, that saving a universe that isn't meant to exist is something they cannot do, especially at the cost of one of their group, and make to leave. When they have left, the lookout of the jungle group who had fallen asleep wakes up and alerts everyone to the fact that they are gone. The jungle group chase after them with arrows and pitchforks and fire. Surrounding the group before they reach the TARDIS, the group try to defuse the situation only for it to go badly wrong. The jungle group raise their pitchforks and torches and throw them at the group. Gemma pushes Jem aside, knocking him and the lady into the TARDIS, but is impaled and killed by the pitchfork herself. E-space collapses as, unable to retrieve Gemma's body, Jem and the lady are forced to flee for their existence. The episode ends with the twosome holding one another as they cry over the memory of a loved one lost, and the TARDIS emerges back into N-space as E-space breaks down and is destroyed, with Gemma's body behind them. The third episode is The Fundamental Things of Time, written by Russell T. Davies. This episode would be the same as Death of the Doctor from the Sarah Jane Adventures, with the lady and Jem being called in by Unit of the future to help identify a body that they believe is the Doctor. The twist would not be that the Shanshith are trying to steal the TARDIS as they are in the real show, but drain people of their lives as they extract sad memories from them. In the end, the lady has to encourage Jem to think of his sister, which he has been unable to do in the weeks since her death, to overload the Shanshith's device and destroy them. The episode ends with Jem requesting to go home, losing Gemma has broken him and he needs some time to recover. The fourth episode is As Time Goes By, written by Joe Hill. Episode 4 picks up with the outcome of Episode 3. Jem is back at home, living his life without the lady, who has agreed to return for him in a year. We follow him through this normal, slow, boring life at home, with people giving him apologies for Gemma's death, him visiting Gemma's grave, all the usual things a human does. However, someone is watching him, someone familiar. The Black Guardian, who reveals that something is wrong with time. As he remembers from the end of the previous season, Gemma was meant to go on and have a long, prosperous future, and their mother was meant to die. The universe is now struggling to alter itself around the wrong person dying. Jem wonders what he is supposed to do about it, only for the Guardian to reveal that he isn't meant to do anything. It's purely down to choice. The universe will slowly but surely fix itself. However, in doing so, he could completely lose memory of his sister, as the universe erases her from ever existing. To save the universe faster, he can give up the memories of his sister permanently and move on with traveling with the lady with no qualms. The lady materializes her TARDIS behind Jem, returning on the agreed date, and tries to talk him out of it, only for Jem to admit that he wants to forget, that he cannot move on with his life while he is mourning her, and asks the Guardian to make him and everyone else in the universe forget. The Guardian admits that he cannot make everyone forget, as that is removing free will, which is what the White Guardian does, but he can make Jem and the lady forget if they so choose to. It is their free will to choose. Jem, despite the lady's protests, agrees, while the lady chooses to keep her memories of her lost companion. The lady ushers Jem into the TARDIS, only for the Black Guardian to stop her. The universe has changed once, another could crack it, so there is something she should know. He holds out a roll of parchment for her. She takes it and opens it, and though we, the audience, do not see it, we see the lady's reflection as she learns her fate. She's going to die soon. The episode ends with the lady returning the parchment to the Black Guardian and entering her TARDIS. The Black Guardian watches them leave, then flickers and transforms into the White Guardian, who has tricked Jem into forgetting about his sister to be able to control and shape the universe better. One more person under his control, his suggestion leaves him more powerful. The 5th episode is The Ship of Dreams, written by J. Michael Straczynski. After the traumatic times of the recent year, which Jem can feel even if not remember, the lady decides they need a holiday. Her choice? A luxury cruise liner setting sail from Southampton, the RMS Titanic. Sure, it sinks, but with her TARDIS they can leave before the sinking occurs. We see the twosome laughing and enjoying themselves until the fateful night, when they are out on deck at the time the Titanic crashes into the iceberg and begins to sink. But something is wrong. The Titanic is sinking too slowly, so Jem and the lady have to descend into the bowels of the ship and set off dynamite to make the hole bigger. The lives lost on the Titanic are now the cause of the TARDIS duo. An enormous rush of water separates the lady and Jem as they are intending to set off the dynamite, and it falls to Jem to set history back on track to make sure the ship sinks on schedule. He lights the dynamite. The small hole in the side of the Titanic ruptures, exploding open and flooding the Titanic, which sinks on schedule with the correct number of lives lost. The lady's TARDIS floats overhead, hidden by the dark of the night, as Jem and the lady lament on what they've had to do. Jem, like his sister, asks to go home permanently this time. It's become too painful to travel with the lady now. The 6th episode is No Matter What the Future Brings, written by Michael Angeli. Jem and the lady arrive back home, only to find that Jem's home has been turned into a facility where everyone thinks and acts and looks the same. The White Guardian has taken control. One last adventure awaits, with the lady and Jem having to thwart the White Guardian's plan. In the end, Jem impales the White Guardian with a pitchfork when the White Guardian reveals that he was responsible for the TARDIS falling into E-space and thus is responsible for the death of Gemma. The Black Guardian appears and reveals that the White Guardian will one day return, for neither can exist without the other, and if one is around, both are around. With the world now fixing itself, snapping back to how it was like an elastic band, the lady and Jem say a fond farewell and part ways, with Jem heading off to new pastures. The Black Guardian watches them go and fades away, returning back from where he came. The 7th episode is On to the Next Endeavor, written by Jeff Vandermeer. The lady is traveling alone when the TARDIS materializes on a luxury cruise liner in space. But what's happening to the guests? Why are they suddenly going missing without a trace? The lady cannot resist and teams up with an undercover detective to find out the truth, which is more abhorrent than she ever thought. A group of rebels fleeing unjust persecution from their planet for a crime they were scapegoated for are feeding on the guests. When the Jadoon arrive to persecute them, the lady finds herself stuck between the law and the rebels. Ultimately, she sides against the Jadoon and saves the rebels, agreeing to take them to a planet where they can live in peace. However, for defying the Jadoon, she is eventually shot and can only watch as the rebels are executed. The 8th and final episode of the series is Luck Be a Lady, written by Joe Hill. The lady is dying. Banished from the cruise liner by the Jadoon, her TARDIS crash lands on Earth. One last adventure for the safety of the universe awaits. The universe is breaking. The lady is dying. Gemma is dead far too early, and Jem is gone. And the space modulator being worked on by the government is out of control. Unit needs help, and the doctor isn't around. The lady offers her services instead of him. Unit storm the government warehouse where the space modulator, designed to allow humans to travel to other planets without a need of fuel so as to save the planet from global warming, is stored. And to save the day and unable to stop her regeneration, the lady plugs herself into the machine and allows the regeneration to occur, with her last words being, "I wonder what's next. I can't wait. Lady, good luck." Unit manages to get everyone out as the lady's regeneration explodes the building and destroys the space modulator. The new lady, played by Ming-Na Wen, opens her eyes and takes her first breath. "Well," she says, "let's see what's next." She unfastens herself from the ruins of the device and heads off into her TARDIS, ready for new adventures. As her TARDIS dematerializes, we hear her voice. "What am I wearing? My past self really had no fashion sense. This will never do, but I like the new face. That will do just nicely." With that, Series 3 was another hit despite the much darker themes. It fit the show quite nicely as it was, darker. BBC was a little worried, but still continued on as the ratings and fan response was positive, especially the series finale being a record breaker because of a regeneration. Series 4, like Series 3, would consist of 8 episodes, but had a completely new cast. Ming-Na Wen was cast as the lady, only meeting Naoko Mori on her very last day on set to film the lady's regeneration. 2 new companions would be added, portrayed by Dylan and Cole Sprouse, to feed into the more American themes and concepts of the show. They would respectively play twin siblings Casper and Charlie Creepley, and they would be introduced for the series. A villain from Doctor Who had first reappeared some years earlier would return to the series, having been recast with a new actor, Matt Berry. The opening sequence would also slightly change, now with the famous song As Time Goes By, which was featured as an episode title in the previous series.
You must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
As well as the scenes reflecting this series, where it would all start rather than the domes underwater, as they were done with that setting now. Lastly, some new writers that would be added as guest writers would be Andy Weir and William Gibson. The first episode is It's Still the Same Old Story, written by Joe Hill and Ronald D. Moore. Casper and Charlie Creepley are twin siblings at university in 2012. Their life is perfectly normal, at least until a portal opens and a mysterious woman and a rampaging carnivorous rhinoceros suddenly appear on campus. Just who is the lady and what does she have to do with a rhinoceros? Charlie is determined to find out. Staking out the cafeteria, he and his brother are whisked into an adventure with the mysterious traveler in time and space, known only as the Lady, who uses Casper's Axe deodorant to repel the rampaging rhinoceros back through the portal, albeit at the expense of the lives of several students. Days later, with the news reporting on the damages done at the university and the investigation of the missing students, the Lady watches Charlie and Casper go about their daily lives before inviting the two of them to join her on her adventures. Charlie accepts for the both of them. As the lady's TARDIS dematerializes, a hooded man watches from the shadows. The second episode is The Habit of a Lifetime, written by Jeff Vandermeer. The lady's TARDIS lands in a monastery in 1066, where the lady, Charlie, and Casper discover that an old enemy of the Doctor, the meddling monk, is attempting to change history by ensuring that William the Conqueror never wins the Battle of Hastings. The trio confront the monk, who offers each of them something they want. All three reject it, though Casper is tempted by the monk's offer. The lady manages to thwart the monk's plans, giving Harold Godwinson and his army modern weapons by stealing them away at night. The monk is surrounded but manages to escape by teleporting away. The lady leads Charlie and Casper back to the TARDIS, intending to head off for their next adventure. Unbeknownst to her and Charlie, the monk approaches Casper, who is somewhat behind them on their journey back to the TARDIS, and agrees to give him his heart's desire if he joins him. We see Casper open his mouth to reply, but do not see or hear him answer. The lady and Charlie realize too late, only managing to see the monk and Casper disappearing in a teleport. The third episode is The Pyramid at the Bottom of the Sea, written by J. Michael Straczynski. The lady's TARDIS materializes at a pyramid at the bottom of the sea, where the lady intends to obtain an old Egyptian relic to be able to track the monk through history to find Casper, whom they believe has been kidnapped. Descending into the bowels of the pyramid, Charlie and the lady find themselves being pursued by ancient mummies, brought to life by the monk, who is briefly seen by them. Charlie demands to know where his twin is, only for the monk to laugh and leave them to their fate. The lady is barely able to clamber off the top of the mummies to reach the relic they need, only to find that the monk has stolen it. When the mummies realize their relic has been stolen, they crumble into dust, releasing the lady and Charlie. Still no closer to finding Casper, the two return to the TARDIS and leave. When the lady's TARDIS has gone, the monk's TARDIS flies out of the pyramid and ascends into space. The fourth episode is Brother, Where Art Thou?, written by Michael Angeli. The episode begins with the ending of episode 2, where we finally see Casper's answer to the monk's offer. He accepts and joins the monk. Throughout the episode, we see the monk and Casper traversing the pyramid before the lady and Charlie. The episode is an introspective of why Casper joined him. Throughout their lives, Charlie has always been better at everything. Taller, fitter, better with the girls despite them being the same in looks, better at school, and Casper wants to bring Charlie down a peg. The episode flashes through various flashbacks of their childhood, with Charlie always being better than Casper, even speaking before him and agreeing to come with the lady on her travels. The episode ends with Casper returning to the monk's TARDIS and the monk laughing at Charlie and the lady, as he did in the previous episode. The fifth episode is The Library at the End of the Universe, written by Andy Weir. With the monk interfering with history, the lady takes Charlie to a library at the end of the universe with every piece of knowledge in the history of all time and space in an attempt to see what the monk has changed. Unfortunately, on their arrival, they discover that the monk and Casper have already been there. The monk has used the Egyptian relic to power a creation device bringing creatures from books alive, and the library is under attack. They offer to help, but the librarian has an adverse reaction to seeing Charlie, thus confirming to the lady and Charlie that Casper was there. With the help of the librarian, the lady and Charlie have to fight their way through the library past floods, dragons, giant squids, and are able to find the device that the monk set up and destroy it, returning the library to normal. With one piece of information, they realize that the monk intends to undo the defeat of Napoleon, and the lady and Charlie rush off to stop him. It then cuts to the monk's TARDIS with him and Casper, and he says, "Alright, let's get out of here. There's a restaurant nearby. I'm starving." And the episode ends. The sixth episode is Wonder What Waits Within, written by William Gibson. Landing at the Battle of Waterloo, the lady and Charlie find the monk providing Napoleon with weapons to defeat the British and ensure his dominance over the world. Siding with the Duke of Wellington, Charlie finds himself on the opposite side of the war to Casper. The monk sneaks into Wellington's camp at night and uses a device to suck Charlie inside Casper. Charlie has to fight his way through the defenses of his brother's body, subsequently discovering just how much his brother hates him after everything that he's been better at than him, and comes face to face with a version of his brother inside Casper, during which an argument starts. The lady is able to help Wellington defeat Napoleon, and Charlie is able to free himself from his brother's body by defeating the version of Casper inside his brother. Cursing the lady for her interference, the monk stabs Casper with a scimitar and departs, leaving Casper dying in his brother's arms. Due to the positioning of the stab, the lady is unable to save Casper's life, and apologizing for siding with the monk, Casper dies in his brother's arms, leaving Charlie heartbroken. The seventh episode is The Monk Who Meddles, written by Ronald D. Moore. Having buried Casper, the lady and Charlie leave to chase the monk across history, undoing various interferences in history by him, including saving Cleopatra from dying early, ensuring that the French Revolution happens, and making sure that the Spanish Armada is thwarted, eventually cornering the monk in the Industrial Revolution, which he intends to undo. Then we discover the truth. The monk is not in charge. He follows orders from a future incarnation of himself known as the Nun, portrayed by Gemma Whelan, who reveals herself to the lady and Charlie. The eighth and final episode of the series is The Managing of the Monk, written by Joe Hill. The Nun reveals that she intends to alter history so as to obtain the attention of the Time Lords so that they will bring her back to Gallifrey, allowing her to conquer the planet when she is there. The lady vows to defeat her and confronts the monk on it. He agrees with his future self, agreeing that the Time Lords need to be conquered and altered to be more meddlesome in the universe. The lady accuses the Nun and the monk of barely meddling in time that there are so much bigger things that you can do when you want to interfere, like make yourself meet yourself over and over again to bend time in on itself and make it snap like a knot in a string. The nun agrees with this, and then stabs the monk, forcing him to regenerate into herself. In the chaos of the monk regenerating, the nun escapes. Charlie wants to punish the newly regenerated and currently unconscious nun before her future self can make the plans, but the lady disagrees. They cannot interfere or they will create a paradox. They would never be here in this situation if everything before had not happened, which would prevent everything from happening, meaning they could never be here to stop the nun if they stopped her now. Charlie asks to go home. Traveling with the lady in these events have broken him. The lady agrees and takes him home. Charlie gives the lady a sad farewell and asks her not to return for him. He doesn't blame her, but the events he's seen have hurt too much and cost him too much, and she'll always remind him of that. Reluctantly, sadly, the lady departs. Charlie turns to the photo of himself and his brother on the wall, then rips it down and crumples it up, breaking down into tears. In the TARDIS, the lady turns back to the console and heads off for her next adventure. Series 4 was a bit of a middling season. While many praised the new lady in Ming-Na Wen, some of the episodes, and Matt Berry's performance, many felt that the Sprouse twins were a bad form of stunt casting despite being written by American writers, as well as feeling a bit repetitive considering the siblings as companions was done before, especially with one of them dying and the living one leaving the lady broken. Also, many stated Wheeling paled in comparison to Barry's monk despite a decent performance in addition to her plan not making a ton of sense. But that is it for the lady series 3 and 4. Next up for Doctor Who The Cancelled Chronicles, we have the final season of the 12th Doctor era and the first of the 13th Doctor era. See you then.